Welcome to the Overcommitted Podcast, your weekly dose of real engineering conversations. I am your host this week, Erica, and I'm joined by...
Hey, I'm Brittany.
Hi, I'm Bethany. The three of us met while working on a team at GitHub and quickly realized we are all obsessed with getting better at what we do. So we decided to start this podcast to share what we've learned. We'll be talking about everything from leveling up your technical skills to navigating your professional development, all with the goal of creating a community where engineers can learn and connect. Today on Overcommitted, we are joined by Christina Martinez, a developer experience engineer from Resend and a passionate advocate for making silly software. So welcome, Christina.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
To kick us off, what's one thing you are currently building or obsessed with learning with right now?
Yeah, well, I'll start with something mostly aimed at Brittany right now. We are fiber arts friends. She crochets and I knit. So I'm learning how to make like custom knitting patterns. So I made my Resend sock. So that's one thing. And then I have two others. One is I'm getting really into like old electronic nostalgia lately. So you can see if you're listening, I have like a Macintosh from 1995 behind me in my office, and I'm working on getting that online. I bought an iPod Nano recently, so working on that. And then the third thing is events. I've been to a ton of events with my new job at Resend, and now we're working on organizing some more like dev meetups and things like that for 2026. So really breaking down like what makes events worthwhile and fun and exciting to go to and figuring out all the logistics. So that's been a new challenge for me. I've been in just a software engineering role for quite a while. And so it's like new kind of soft skills challenges, which has been interesting.
It's very cool. Yeah, I always feel like the end of the year, there's a lot of nostalgia with like the year look back in general. But yeah, anything like early tech is also fun. I was reminded of the like Thousands music video moment where like Kelly Rowland was like trying to like text through an Excel spreadsheet on her like Nokia. Um yeah, in that one music video. Anyway, I like had forgotten about that. I was finding out this morning. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah.
It's always so fun to look back at like old movies and stuff and see the tech that they had. It's just great.
Yeah. Reminder that we're all human and tech moves fast. Cool. Well, we have to ask about some of these really fun projects that you have done in your time as a software engineer. You are the creative mind behind the Gen Z Babel plugin and the Swift commits tool. And you say that you're kind of on this big push for silly software and that you prefer it over standard corporate apps. So what's kind of creative process there? Are you actively hunting for ways to make coding a little more fun and ridiculous, or did the ideas kind of come as a natural discovery?
I think it comes kind of naturally. I appreciate, kind of like boring software, and even like the company that I work for that could be categorized as boring, it's emails. And that's really important to keep the infrastructure intact and working how it should be. But I think it makes it really fun and exciting to work on things that are a little more creative. And so yeah, I think I use silly software in two ways. One is like I just learned a concept. I want to apply it somehow and kind of like practice, but I want to make it kind of fun instead of just building like another to-do app or a calculator app or something. And so one example of that was I wanted to learn about WebSockets. And so that's when I built the Mux worst video player that we can talk about a little later. But I wanted to see like how can I use this technology to make something that's like really cursed and terrible and like fun and funny. And so that's one way is like starting with the like technology. And then the second way is starting with like an idea that I wanted to get to. So the Babel plugin that you were talking about, it started with just a joke Instagram video from someone else, a guy named Justin, and he was like making a joke about what if people could code in Gen Z slang. And I was like, I bet you could totally make that happen. And so found a way to make it happen by like figuring out what tools you could use. So those are kind of like my two approaches, but I like to kind of add a little twist so that it's a little more interesting than just, doing the same thing and following a tutorial or whatever it may be.
For sure. Yeah. Well, that's a good perspective. Like it's not even necessarily like it sounds like it is the software, but it's also kind of the approach and the mindset. Like you can kind of find joy in like either the idea or the like way you're going about it. Yeah. Yeah, worst actual it's the actual worst video player is hilarious. So is the idea like you literally make everyone suffer when one person pauses the video?
Oh, yeah, yep. Yeah, it was a kind of a hackathon style, like, competition for mucks, and they were trying to see who could build the worst video player with their tools, and obviously, like, it still had to work, but it needed to be terrible. So, yeah, it was all the controls are complicated and you control the experience for everyone else. So that was a really fun project to work on, and I learned a lot about WebSockets.
Nice. So that one you worked on by yourself in like a hackathon style, but you've also like collaborated with other people on some of these other projects. So how does that energy change when you're working on something by yourself versus collaborating with somebody else or a team?
Yeah, I think when you're working on things by yourself, you have more control over the project itself and like the ways that it's going to go and what the final product is. But it can also be really like fun and empowering to find someone that's like-minded and has a similar goal and things that they want to learn as well. Um, and they're able to take the projects in ways that you could never expect. And I think of it as like I'm not a comedian at all, but with improv comedy, it's like a yes and type of attitude where people like add on to your idea. And I think finding someone that's like that and you're able to kind of like riff off each other and make the project better, I think that's what you need to look for when you're looking for a partner or like group to work on things in hackathons or just side projects like this.
Cool. And I mentioned the Swift commits tool. Do you want to describe that one?
Yeah, that's just if you've used, Better Commits, it's just a fork of that. The goal of Better Commits is to actually make your commit messages better with the semantic commit styling, but this one is a Taylor Swift version of that. So you choose like the era that you want to use, and then you can choose different lyrics, and it needs to like describe how you feel about your code, and then that's your commit message. Yeah, that was a fun project. I pulled a lot of my favorite quotes out of her songs for that, and it was great. I don't think anyone has ever used it, so that's okay.
I have to now though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
was
want
gonna
this in
say,
production at GitHub, you know?
yeah, we'll have to pull some strings. Speaking of like kind of that intersection of work and silliness and things like that, I'm curious if you have any tools or tricks on how to bring joy to your day-to-day work. If you try to bring that levity into your daily job, or if you're kind of like, no, this is just for my side projects and I'm treating work in a different way.
Uh, yeah, I think I'd say the side projects are a way sort of to get it out of my system a little bit so that I can be serious at work. So I'm not like the class clown at work, like trying to be silly all the time. But yeah, I do try to be human at work and not just, clock in and clock out, that type of thing. So relationships at work are really important for me. I like to have friends and get along and be lighthearted and things. But yeah, like I think the team that you work for and the bosses that you work for are really important to me personally, and I would take a much lower salary just to be at a place where I feel kind of at home and trusted and that I can trust my team and that sort of thing. So finding the right spot to be is just so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think fun is such a core aspect to how a team works together. Like if a team can have fun together, that's I think the sign of a healthy team. So I
Absolutely.
like that. Like take your work seriously, but like be human, have fun, joke around. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think that by being a developer experience engineer allows you to have more of that fun than maybe a traditional software engineering role? Or was it just something that you felt was more tailored to your experience or your skill set?
Yeah, I do think it provides more opportunities. I started in marketing and kind of like learned to code on the side while I was doing this marketing job at a tech company and got into coding that way. So then I was a software engineer and led a small team and that sort of thing for some time. And now I'm back kind of almost in the middle of those two things. And it's been really fun so far to work on code still and need to use my technical skills as well, but be back in a little bit of a role where it's like more creative, some soft skills, getting to have a big say in the product by talking to customers and seeing what they want and need from our tools, that sort of thing. And so Resend has been very kind to me with allowing me different creative opportunities. Like at Supabase Select this year, I built like an installation, like an interactive type of exhibit where we printed out a bunch of like famous emails or emails that changed the world is what we called it. And people could go and hang those on the wall, like their favorite emails. And this included like the first email sent from space, the first spam email. Queen Elizabeth II was the first head of state to send an email. And so there's one from her, stuff like that. And so people could print them out, put them on the wall. They could take it home in a frame. And it was like a really fun project for me to work on. And so I feel like those types of things are really interesting to me, aside from just coding all the time, which is also a fun creative job, but it's just like a nice mix of the two.
That makes so much sense. That's really cool that you're able to combine all your experience to this one like job that's almost tailored to you. What
Yeah, it does
drove you
feel
to?
very custom fit for me.
Yeah, which is so cool. I love when that happens because
Yeah.
it's sometimes when you switch positions. I mean, a lot of us switched from what we thought we were going to be. You're like, well, did I just waste all those years of doing something else? But usually it actually is a superpower in a way towards the as you move on. So that's so cool.
Yeah, it does feel strange to be coding less because at part of my career, I had made that decision. It was like a fork in the road of like, okay, no, I want to be an engineer. And so I moved into that and away from marketing. So it feels weird to go kind of like back a little bit, but it's not a regression so far. It's been really empowering and fun and a cool job.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all valuable skills in the long
Yeah.
run. And it's all valuable things for developers and making people happy at the end of the day. So I
Yeah.
think that's really cool. What drove you to learn the technical side of things from marketing? Was there any like key switch that led you down that path?
Yeah. In my marketing job, I was mostly like kind of a project manager type of role where I was coordinating different promotions and campaigns that we had. And one of the jobs that we had to do like pretty infrequently, but still like probably once a month or so, we would have to edit like these just really basic HTML pages and swap out some products and like change things around. And when the graphic designers would come to me and say like, "Hey, can we add some padding here or like change a color?" I had no idea what I was doing and I hated that. It just felt terrible to be really bad at a part of my job that was recurrent, even though it was like so rare. So after a rough Black Friday season where I was like pulled away from my family trying to edit pages and this sort of thing, I decided that I needed to learn and just like buckle down. And I expected to hate every minute of it. I joined this Code Academy course and it was like a learning path or something like that, but almost like a very mini, like self-paced boot camp. And after that, I learned everything that I needed to know for that marketing job, but I fell in love with coding. It was so just empowering to start with an empty file and end up with whatever was in my brain, basically. And so that just got me hooked and I couldn't set it down. So it was like my side hobby. I asked my company that I was working for if I could just like practice a couple hours a week. So they gave me little jobs that I could do. And then that turned into a job offer on like a MarTech front end team and then eventually a product team that was a full stack job. So that's kind of my path. It's a weird kind of roundabout path, but I'm really glad that it happened. It was a lot of fun to learn that way, and they were so kind to me to allow me those opportunities and take chances on me when I was so green and fresh.
Yeah, I think those kinds of things are so nice when that happens because it's I mean, when you go to college, you go the traditional path. Sometimes you are passionate about it, but usually it's for like a greater good of earning money or doing whatnot, which still you got to earn money. But like when you're doing it through that route, it's something that it's truly out of passion. It's truly out of like an interest. And I think that's such a great motive for doing like technical things or programming and stuff like that. So that is so cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything that you're wanting to or you're feeling like you should learn more today or anything that's like on your radar to learn more about moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to work on my technical skills, even though nowadays I'm using them a little bit less than at my pure software engineering job. But I think, kind of like I mentioned before, the events has been really big on my mind. My company's fairly small. We have, I think, 29 employees now, but we're growing a lot and wanting to host more events and be more involved in a community. And so trying to solve that puzzle where we haven't really had that at all before. And I'm not used to it either. It's not been a focus of mine at all. I think that's been something that's really interesting to me. So I've been to several events this past, I don't know, 6 months or so, and looking to host our own starting in January. So that'll be so exciting.
That's awesome. You'll definitely have to let us know once you have some scheduled if there are any that like we can help share.
Yeah.
I met a bunch of the Resend team at Cascadia JS this year, and they
Mhm.
were all super cool. Yeah,
Yeah, it was good to see you in real life.
yeah, in 3D, like where people
Yeah,
actually had bodies. It was
real
weird.
person.
um, so one of the themes that I feel like we come back to a lot on this show is like the idea of storytelling, and it sounds like with your marketing background, like you probably have like a an opinion about how a narrative is really important for telling a story, even as an engineer, even if you're like doing something really technical. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on like storytelling and investing in that skill set as a software engineer or as an engineer who's like blending marketing and engineering like you are now.
Yeah, I think it is really overlooked. A lot of times we focus on like building the coolest thing possible and we pour all our energy into it. And then when it gets to sharing it, like we just don't know what to do, I guess. And so then it doesn't really go anywhere because people don't know that they should be excited about it or like spend time learning about it. And so I guess one example of kind of storytelling being involved in like the product decisions, I guess, is that Mux video player that I did. Um, the tech itself wasn't like anything impressive or exciting, really. It was more about like, the story that helped the kind of random controls come together in like a cohesive thing that you could talk about. So, like, I could just have a bunch of random controls that are just really terrible. And that's also like kind of a cursed video player. But I made it into a story about like, this is inspired by those group projects in school that everyone hates where like one person's input can like negatively impact everyone else. And so that kind of drove all of the decisions that I made as I was trying to figure out like what controls to add and that sort of thing. But I feel like that helped sell it a little bit more and helped. It was a competition, so I ended up winning the competition and flying to New York for Versailles ship, and they, like, treated me so well the entire time, it was so great. But, yeah, I guess, like, being able to sell your story and it like, I don't know, it sounds like I'm being very, like, marketing business person right now of, like, talking about selling and stuff, but you need to think of it as not just being, like, a salesperson, but, like, faithfully telling the story of, like, what the product is and, like, why you're so excited about it. And I think that helps people to understand more of where you're coming from and get excited with you about this thing that you built.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's super important. And yeah, I get the hesitation around calling it like selling, but I feel like it's important not only for, when you release a product to the external world, where you might hopefully you have some marketing support to like talk about it, but it's also important internally. I've read so many posts like internal announcements where it's like, here's the thing, and we shipped this thing, and now it is shipped. And it's like, okay, like great. Like, why do we care about it? Like, how many customers is it going to solve? Like, what are their pain points and like how does this address them? I feel like having that narrative around what it is like a very important skill regardless of where you're at in your career. So,
Yeah, there's just so much to care about all the time that people have to be selective and choose what are the most important things. So feel like that's the main goal of like creating a story.
yeah, absolutely. Are there any other skills that you feel like you've sort of like have as a little bit of a superpower having that marketing background that like cross over to engineering other than the narrative and storytelling?
That's a good question. I think since I don't know, there's like a stereotype of what software engineers are, which is not true at all, by the way. But like, I never got into software engineering growing up and stuff, even though there were several signs along the way that maybe it would be an interesting career for me, just because I didn't see myself as like a math person or someone who's really into Star Trek or like, that sort of thing. And so I think I bring like different soft skills and things that aren't always present with engineers, but as I've like kind of gotten deeper into this career path, I found that many of them are that way anyways, and it's just like a stereotype that, you'd have to be really into math or like yeah, you've been building computers in your mom's basement since you were 12 or whatever the thing is. But yeah, I think like being able to connect people and um, build relationships and stuff has been like a fun surprise for me. At my last company when I was an engineer, I had friends at work, but we didn't really go out into the broader like tech industry as a whole. We were kind of like siloed on our own. And so in this new role, it's been really fun to meet people from different companies and go to conferences and like start to form those relationships. And that's caught me off guard, especially as an introvert that I just wasn't expecting that would be a superpower of mine, I guess.
Yeah. It's amazing how much talking you actually have to do in this role where, everybody's like, "Oh, you're only using a computer." No,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
there's a lot involved in getting people on board and
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of events, you are going to be speaking at React Miami, correct?
Yeah. I am. Yeah.
Is this your first speaking role or have you done these
It's
in the
my first
past?
one. I'm really nervous. Any tips, let me
Congrats.
know.
That's awesome. Congrats. What made you want to like sign up? Do you know what you're talking about already or
I do know what I'm talking about already. I'm gonna try to convince people that they should build more silly software. So kind of have a theme going here. But I didn't really sign up. I met Michelle, the organizer of React Miami, this summer at Versailles Ship, and we got along great and kept in contact afterwards and stuff. And she asked me to speak, and so that's what's gonna happen. So I think I'm scared to death about it. I am not a public speaker. I've never done anything like this before, but I think that being scared of something is not a good reason to not try it. And so I'm gonna see, and if I hate it, I'll never do another talk again, so we'll see.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, I don't think anybody would be like, "Oh, no, you have to do more speaking."
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that speaking at tech events has been like one of the most fun ways to get involved at them in my experience. And like I've
Okay.
never been to one where there are people in the audience like actively saying that, no, this person sucks. Like everybody's always like cheering for you, especially with that topic. That's going to be, yeah, everybody's going to be super excited about it. So
Okay.
that's a good one.
That's good to hear. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you've spoken quite a bit, right?
This last year was the first time I've done quite a bit. And yeah, I did like a couple of like meetups and like larger than meetups before that. And now this last year, I actually just hung up some conference badges yesterday. And
Oh,
it's like, wow,
nice.
I've got like a little collection going. I feel like a big kid now.
That's fun.
I've done a few. And yeah, I want to keep doing more. So hopefully you'll get the same bug and you're like, yes, this is the way to engage at events. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good to hear because I'm just, like, focusing on myself and what my experience is gonna be, and so it'll be nice to engage in a different way in those events, so that's a good way to look
Mhm.
at it.
Well, we are going to switch gears here at the end. This has all been fun, but we have a segment specifically dedicated to talking about something we think is fun and interesting and potentially not strictly software related. And you mentioned that you studied abroad in Spain for a year. You actually owned a business in Spain. So and you said you'd always go back there whenever given a chance. So selfishly, I want some travel tips and ideas, and we'll all go around Robin style and share our favorite place in the world where we would recommend everyone goes if they have a chance. So I can start. I've been lucky enough to go to Switzerland twice. Heritage, my family's heritage is Swiss, and it's like everything I love. Like it's so like healthy, like the air is wonderfully fresh and like clean. And you spend your days like hiking and there's like cows and cute little chalets and would literally go anytime at the drop of a hat. So I don't have like a specific place in Switzerland. I was like younger when I went, so I don't even really remember exactly which cities. So I'm gonna say the country of Switzerland, which leaves it very broad, but yeah, outdoorsy activities in Switzerland is my recommendation.
I can go next. Yep. Okay. Cool. My recommendation is, well, I would say not as far, but I guess it depends on where you're listening from. Because if you're in Europe, Switzerland's probably more easier to get to. But my recommendation is Hood River, Oregon, which probably doesn't sound like super exciting. But like if I were to buy a vacation home somewhere, it would absolutely be there. It's on the Columbia River Gorge, which is the river between Oregon and Washington. I try to go at least once a year just to go there. And like it's on this beautiful river, like with all these canyons around. And they have what's called the fruit loop there, where there's all these different farms you can stop at, and they just grow so much fruit there that it's like super fun in the summer to go like farm to farm to just pick up different fruits, whatever they specialize in. Lots of wine tasting and just some of the most gorgeous mountain views and river views and nice people. So highly recommend that one.
Oregon genuinely is like one of the most incredible places. The Pacific Northwest in general, I fell in love there. My mind went in so many different places, so I'm just going to kind of be a little chaotic with it. Part of me is selfish and wants everybody to come to Charlotte, where I live, because I think that it's underrated and I love it and I want other people to love it too. But for more exciting, I guess, or out there Rex, I was really surprised by Boston. Me and my husband decided to go there on a whim, and it was actually really fun, like super historic, but also very modern. And it just was a really cool vibe. And then Japan, I feel like everybody who's been to Japan has to recommend it, but it truly was so special. We went to Tokyo and Kyoto, and it was such a cool culture to realize, and kind of what you were talking about, Christina, about like forcing yourself to be a little uncomfortable in places. You're like, oh, I don't know Japanese. I don't know the language. I don't know like all the customs or anything. And so it's cool to kind of like push yourself and explore beyond what your comfort zone is. So that was definitely like stretching myself and stretching my comfort zone. And it was so special. Hoping to go back soon.
Man, I'm jealous of Japan. I've been lobbying the powers that be at Resend that our next offsite needs to be in Japan, so we'll see. My recommendation is Spain, like you mentioned. I'm obsessed with Spain. I love it so much. I've spent some time there, and I think there's many good places to go. I think the most like classically Spanish with like all the architecture and the like flamenco and all the things that you think of, and like most highest concentration of like interesting things to look at and do would be Sevilla. And I think though like the city that's closest to my heart is Malaga, which is just like on the coast. It's like the perfect city in my opinion. It's right on the beach and has great weather, walkable, and like interesting museums and things to do. And so that's really close to where I lived when I was in Spain. But those are two of my recommendations. And you can go on a trip and see them both in the same trip because they're pretty close by. So yeah, I think that's my recommendation.
Definitely adding it to the list. Well, thank you again, Christina, for joining us. Where is the best place for people to find you on the internet?
I think ChristinaCodes.dev. It has all the other links to go elsewhere. And I'm launching a new newsletter at sillysoftware.club. Hasn't been released yet. Hopefully by the time that this episode airs, it will be. But yeah.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Overcommitted. If you like what you hear, please do follow, subscribe, or do whatever it is you like to do on the podcast app of your choice. Check us out on Blue Sky and share with your friends. Quick plug for our book club. Whatever time you're listening to this, it's kicking off in mid-December. And by the time this comes out, it'll probably be running for a bit. And there's great content to catch up on, discussions. Great book club content to engage with. So definitely check it out. And until next week, goodbye.